called the altar of mercy. Why? Because if somebody committed a crime or was the reason for an accident, could run in this yard until the police could come and arrest him and put him under the protection of the law. The criminal, yes, the criminal. The criminal has to be protected by the law. Otherwise, relatives, friends of the victim, they could kill him. And the deaths could be more and more. So this person could escape, could run to this place, to this yard, until the police will come, and no one has the right to touch him. Yeah, the altar of mercy. Now we continue this way. Met his disciples. But we have to speak a little bit about how philosophy started and why Socrates is so important. Remember, philosophy started not from Athens, but from Asia Minor. 6th century before Christ, in Ephesus and Miletus are thinkers who look around nature and they are overwhelmed by nature. And they realized that mythology was not enough to give a right interpretation about nature. And they decided, by studying nature, to discover the first reasons. The first reason. Or the first reason, or the first reasons. Studying nature, these thinkers made some really impressive discoveries. Number one, they found that nature is not many things put together, but is one thing. Nature is not compartmentalized, is one thing, is a totally unbreakable chain from the very small, the micro, to the very big, the mega. Number two, they found that everywhere in nature are mathematical relations. Mathematics everywhere. Number three, they found that all living nature, all plants, all animals, all humans, in their outer form, they all have the same tendency to fulfill only one mathematical formula. And this formula is 2x plus 1 divided by x. That was incredible, and made them to consider this formula as the expression of the life through mathematics. And they consider this formula the perfection and harmony. And they call this formula divine or golden ratio. On this formula is based what we mentioned earlier as Fibonacci sequence, which you should study in your computer. Yeah, Google Fibonacci sequence. You will be amazed. I cannot spell it because I'm dyslexic, but I can repeat what I said. Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci.
F-I-B. F-I-B.
S-I-B.
finally, as a conclusion, for making the long story short, these thinkers saw nature as a unique mathematical artifact in which themselves participated. And they called nature Joule. Joule. The Greek term for Joule is cosmos. You say in English cosmetics from that term. These people are considered to be the first philosophers of history because from the visible and the tangible they pass to the invisible and abstractive by making the question: if all what is around us, including us, is a unique mathematical jewel, cosmos, then who is the cosmos maker? Who is the mathematical artist who made it? The answer given to this question by them was divided in two levels. Level number one definitely should be one or more than one mathematical minds functioning in a way parallel to the human mathematical mind. And this is why we understand the mathematical relations in nature. What that means the possibility of a direct communication with divinity using the same logic, the same mathematical mind. Level number two. Is one mathematical mind or more than one? In art, the reality seen by different minds is seen from a different point of view. And this is why we see that every single artifact has only one sign underneath, because expresses the way, the unique way this artist preserves reality. That brought them to the conclusion that behind this artifact should be only one mathematical mind, a great mathematical mind. Who is him? They couldn't identify this mind with no one of the gods of the myth. Is Zeus? Definitely not. Is Poseidon? No. And so here we have the formation of the philosophical approach to divinity as the great mathematical mind, the cosmos maker, the unknown God. In Athens, the time of democracy, we have a turn of philosophy from observing out to observing in. How that happened? The Athenians had the right to step upon the bema and to speak to the assembly, something which made them to realize that they needed more education. The fact is that democracy is based mostly to ethics and morals, and secondly, to the ability of speech and the way of speaking. That need of the Athenians to be educated tried to fulfill all the teachers of the area around, even from Asia Minor. They rushed and they came here ready to be paid well to teach Athenians how to speak, how to stand in front of the assembly, telling nothing about ethics and morals. That for the Athenians was taught in the theater. These people, for finding a job, for being hired by the Athenians, cultivated the idea that the truth and the good is not objective but subjective. Something which is totally immoral. They said, look, doesn't matter what the others think about truth and about good. The important thing is you to be able to persuade the others, the assembly, for your own good and your own truth. That produced in Athens a group of people called demagogues, the ones who destroyed the Athenian democracy. As a reaction to that, we have a person who was not a teacher, he never went to a school, he was an artist, and he's Socrates. Socrates was a sculptor, he was a statue maker. He was 40 years old when he decided to banish himself and his family in total poverty and to leave his job completely and to pass all his day here in this square, meeting the Athenians and their teachers, because he strongly believed that the truth and the good is objective, is one, and stands outside of the human. And every human has only one way to live his life, to be addressed towards to the objective truth and the objective good, as the sunflower is turned always towards the sun. He was not educated. The teachers who came here came with degrees. He had no degrees, and so he didn't promote his knowledge. On the contrary, he promoted his ignorance. He became known in Athens, and he's still known today because of his saying, I know only one thing, that I know nothing. Please, you, the specialists, come to teach you. And he put to them wise questions, and he started with them a conversation, the famous Socratian dialogues, at the end of which was proved that the ignorant man knew more than the specialist. We could say a lot about this man who was misunderstood by the Athenians, by his wife. But I jump directly to the end. 30 years later, he was 70 years old, and he was arrested here in this square under the accuse that with his teaching he is corrupting the Athenian youth, making the young Athenians lazy, not able to administrate their family property. He was brought to the court, and he did nothing to defend himself. On the contrary, he was ultra provocative to the Athenian society. He resembled the Athenian society with a big, fat, and sleepy horse, and himself with a horsefly. And he said to the Athenians from the court, it's very easy for you Athenians to stretch your arm and to grasp the fly and to kill it. But your punishment will be that you will continue your sleep. You will sleep and sleep and sleep until God will be merciful on you to send to you somebody from above to awake you. 399 BC. In Athens, oh, let me finish the apology. Yeah, the defensive speech. As far as my execution, as far as death, death should be two things, only two things. Or a deep sleep without dreams, something which for a person like me, very old, who suffers without sleep, should be the perfect. Or transfer to the land of justice.
I'm sorry, transfer to what?
Light of
To the
justice.
land of justice. And this is what I believe. So is something better and more beautiful somebody to be in the land of justice and to find there all who were executed and died because of the human injustice? We are living from here. You to go home. Me to die. Who of you can say who is the one who goes to the best? It's me going to the land of justice, or you who go to your home with all the problems of your families. The execution in Athens was instant, but in the case of Socrates was postponed for a month because there were festivals, and so executions were not allowed to be, and every day all these men, his disciples, visited him in the prison to discuss with him. The last day they went there very early morning before the prison was open. The execution was with the dusk, and when the gates opened and they saw him, they burst in tears. He totally calm asked them, "What happened to you today? And you look so sad." And one of his disciples said, "Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? You don't know what is today?" What is today? Today you decided to leave us orphans. Why he said that? Because some days before, another very rich friend of him had bribed all the Athenian administration and went in the prison and said to him, "Socrates, you are free." Socrates says, "Are you crazy? I expect my executor." And they started a very famous dialogue about the importance of the law. Even the bad law is better than no law. You can find this conversation, this dialogue, under the title Crichton, the name of the man who bribed the Athenians. At the end of the conversation, Socrates asked Crichton, "Now, what do you think is proper and right for me to do?" And Crichton said to him, "No, you should stay here and die. And me to lose all the money I gave to them." So, you decided to leave us orphans. That is the beginning of a dialogue which is preserved, and is the last dialogue of Socrates, is preserved under the name Phaedo, one of the disciples who took place in that discussion. In that discussion, the problem was, what is soul? And all what is said all through history until today about what is soul was brought on the table. And this man had for everything a wise word to say. One of the disciples said to him, "Socrates, how do you know all these things?" Have you ever died before and you know what is death so well, and for that you are not afraid of death? And he said to him, my child, all the fish in the sea, looking up, they see the water surface and they think that this is the sky. And they look around and they look around and they see the rocks without colors and without brightness because of the salt. But there are some little fish which can jump a little bit out of the water. And these fish know what is the real sky and know also that the rocks have colors and brightness. This man divided philosophy to pre-Socratian, Socratian, and post-Socratian. From the environment of this ignorant man, 5 philosophical schools started, not identified to each other, which still today affect the Western thought. Number 1, the Academy of Plato. Number 2, Lyceum of Aristotle. Number 3, the Megarian Philosophical School, for which we are going to speak on our way to Corinth tomorrow. Number 4, the School of the Cynics. And number 5, the Cyrenian School. This is how the formation of the Western thought started in this square. And this is the person who turned philosophy to inner man. Who am I? What is virtue? What is value? What is soul? What is God? Is there any question up to this point? We continue our